Patreons, and welcome to episode 181 of the I Rock Knits podcast. Yes, my voice is a little deeper. My nose is a little more congested. I caught a terrible cold when we were in Canada on vacation. And so we left, oh gosh, what was it, 10, 12 days ago? We went to Canada, we vacationed, we came home on Wednesday, and both of us turned around and left home again on Thursday. Ross got back on Friday, I got back late last night, and I'm still a little congested and coffee, and so we're gonna see how this goes. I tried to say hello and nothing came out. So yeah, it kind of comes and goes here. Welcome. I'm glad you're all here. I have a lot of CORI'S stories today because I have not a lot of knitting to show as far as sneak peeks or anything, maybe one little one. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well. I did go to Canada with Ross for vacation. We almost always take our summer vacation over kind of the Labor Day weekend. We find it's a beautiful time of year to travel. And we had gone to a dude ranch up in Kimberley, BC. Gosh, I'm going to say 15 years ago with Kylie on vacation when she was young and we were all riding horse. And we got to swim with horses, and we stayed at a beautiful, I think it was the Two Bars Ranch maybe, where we learned all about reining, which is what the competitive horse that Kylie decided to go into eventually. We knew nothing about it when we went up there, and we rode in the mountains, and it was absolutely beautiful. But we drove through Banff on that trip, and we said, someday we're going to go back. And finally, 15 years later, so we flew to Calgary, and then we drove about, 45 minutes maybe, over to Canmore, and we stayed in Canmore, and then we just did day trips each day. We saw absolutely beautiful sights. We had a gorgeous weather. It was very cool in the mornings. It got just beautiful in the afternoons, but not hot. I made some notes here because I wanted to tell you all, just in case anybody wants to take a trip. We thought that the best part of our trip was going to Sunshine Fields, which is a ski resort in the mountains. We drove up this 2-lane road. There was absolutely no traffic. We're thinking things are going to be packed. Parking's going to be a disaster. You know, it's the holiday weekend before kids go back to school. And we were driving up this road, and we came across these mule deer just grazing along the sides of the road. I'll have a little video at the end of some of the sights we saw, but we got there and we thought it's going to be closed. It just seemed so deserted. There were maybe 20 cars. It was the best part of our trip. We took a 22-minute gondola ride, which was beautiful. We're in the Canadian Rockies. We go up, and then we turn sharp and go up even higher. We get off at the top of the mountain, and then we take a chairlift up higher, walk off the chairlift, and go out onto this viewing deck. It was stunning. We're looking out over 3 lakes, all of which you can hike down to. I say to Ross, I can do it, because now all the body parts are fixed. If you don't know, I have 2 knee replacements, both knees. I've had multiple surgeries on both knees. I have a hip replacement, a shoulder replacement. I tore my plantar, and so I had that fixed, and I have 2 thumbs. So I have been, in the orthopedic center for the last 5 years, pretty much full time as a frequent flyer. And I just said, I think I can do it. And he said, well, let's just see how it goes, right? And so we hiked down to the first lake. To go around the entire second lake loop was a 5-mile trek. And neither one of us really wanted to do that because part of the day is gone already, right? And so we hiked down to this first lake, and it was down, down, down. And there were we're on a trail, like a gravelly dirt path. But there were a number of steps down, and I am so short that I struggled to step down big steps, right? So Ross would be on the other side, and he'd just take my hand. I just didn't want to slide on the other side. And other people were doing the same thing. So the terrain really wasn't too bad. And I noticed that coming back up, lots of people were stopping and huffing and puffing. and there were several places along to stop, and there were benches where you could stop and just sit and look out. I did not take into account the elevation. And so we went down, everything, I mean, it was fine. We got to the first lake, we took a picture, we thought we got a Christmas card picture. Some people stopped and said, can we take your picture and you can take ours? That happened our entire vacation. Everyone was so kind and so nice about moving out of the way and letting you take a picture and then you taking a picture for them. I can't even tell you how many pictures we got of both of us, which rarely happens, right? Yeah, people were just super friendly. Lots of people from Asia, lots of people from India, lots of families with children. It was just lovely. And then I said to Ross, now you go on around part of the lake if you want. He said, I don't. And I said, go ahead, go take a picture for me from the other side so I can see. He was only gone about 10 minutes. So I sat on a rock and knit. This little girl came by and she said, are you knitting? And I said, I am knitting. Why are you knitting here? I said, well, I'm a knitting designer and I just like to sit in pretty places and knit away. My grandma is a knitter, she said. So here comes Ross back and I'm talking to this little girl all about knitting. He's like, of course she is. She can't go anywhere without talking about knitting. It was just beautiful. Then the hike back up was tough. I probably stopped 4 times. I think it was about a mile and a half, maybe 1.75 miles all the way down and back up. But it was down, 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 and then up, 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 right? There was no flat part really. Just a couple when you turn to kind of do the switchback, but it was gorgeous. Then when we got done, we went and had lunch on the top of the mountain in a little bar, like kind of a log cabin restaurant bar place. And they were playing music outside. A girl was singing and playing acoustic guitar. So we sat in these chairs and I knit and we listened to her play and she was so good. And she was just playing by herself. She had 2 little speakers. We're on a mountaintop. People are having a beer, drinking wine. We had a Diet Coke, you know, my emotional support drink. I kept saying that to Ross and he's like, that's really not as funny as you think it is. But it was just beautiful on that mountaintop. We wore jackets on the way up. And then once we hiked, we didn't need our jackets anymore. Ross had a backpack, and so we rolled them up. And then we didn't need them back on the way down. But it was just a lovely ski lift ride on the way down. We got lots of pictures. I would highly, highly recommend that trip. There are a number of gondola and ski lift rides, but our waitress the night before told us Sunshine Fields is the best deal, and we were just tickled. It was lovely. We just had a wonderful day. I think it cost $70 Canadian for each of us to go up and back, which the conversion rate is so good for the US if you use your credit card. It just really, we spent more while we're there, but the conversion rate is just really good. So that was absolutely beautiful. Then we went to Takakkaw Falls, which is the biggest waterfall in Canada. Absolutely glorious. It melts off a glacier, makes a river, pours through a crevice in the rock on a cliff high up. There'll be a picture. And then I would say about 50 yards down, it hits like a slab of rock that's sticking out and it shoots out and then down. So the closer you walk to the falls, which was only not even a 1/4 mile to walk, you went across the bridge and then you were toward the bottom of the falls. So from the parking lot, it wasn't far at all. Got kind of into the forest, but the closer you got, the more misty it got. And so then I sat there and I said to Ross, people are hiking all the way up this rocky, looked like we should not be able to go up there, right? Why weren't there signs? Why were they letting people almost cause a landslide? Because there was so much rock, but people were hiking all the way up there. And I said, go for it. I go up and take a picture practically underneath this falling water. So he went really far and I got a video of him and I kept trying to point at him. He had on a yellow hat and a red shirt and backpack, I think. And so he was pretty easy for me to see, to watch him go up. And then he'd turn around and wave at me and I'd go farther. And I was just watching him. And he said it wasn't too bad going up, but he said you were just slipping and sliding coming back down. And people were literally in like Crocs and Birkenstocks. And we had tennies. We didn't take hiking boots, but because they're just so heavy to pack. But that was beautiful. Absolutely. We went to Emerald Lake. We went to Lake Louise, which is just beautiful. Then I got the cold. I got a really bad sore throat one night. I was sitting up knitting a little bit and I could tell it was coming on. And then the next morning I had this sore throat. So we went and bought all the things, echinacea zinc. We bought Cepacol for my throat, which they taste terrible, but they completely numb your throat. Then that went away and then it became nose and cough. And I said to him, I don't really want to sit at the hotel and not do anything, so we may as well go. So we went WhiteWater rafting. Probably poor choice, right? You're pretty sick, got a terrible cold. But they give you wetsuits, which are about impossible to get on. You're peeling them up your body. I'm in this room with all these other women, and we're literally in one of those shipping container metal boxes as the locker room. And we're all peeling them on, and people are like trying to get them on. And then they give you these boots that you zip up, and then the big things and the helmet. So you're pretty well covered, even though the water is quite cold. The first 30 minutes of the trip were very rapidy, not like level 5 or whatever, but we had to paddle a lot and paddle hard. And that was not in the brochure. And there were 3 rafts going down, and there were eight of us in each raft, maybe something like that. And we had to sit on the edge with a paddle the whole time. I mean, yeah. And this was a river that got flooded 30 years ago and did a ton of damage to the landscape. So they went in and they fixed the river, and they put rocks and stones in the river to make the rapids, so that there are kayakers there that are practicing going through those chutes. So on our way down, we're watching these people kayak up and then do their thing through these fancy whitewater. Then the second hour and a half or more of the trip was like floatable, right? You just paddled very occasionally, and you got to get out and stand in the water and swim if you wanted in a couple of places. And the water level was quite low. In the spring, it can be very high. I cannot imagine how much paddling you would have to do if it was high, because Ross was in the front. They put 2 old couples in our boat, and then 3 kind of younger girls who were all wearing hijabs. And so they weren't probably super athletic. They were just skinny kind of young girls, right? Not young, but probably in their early 20s. And then this one guy and his girlfriend, who he was... So he's like, I need my 2 strongest paddlers in the front. And everybody looked around, and it was either Ross or no one. And Ross canoes, but he's going to be 65, right? So he and this young buck are up front doing our steering, our paddling. And, and Ross and his shoulders got really sore because he was trying to dig in as deep as this young kid. We had a lovely time. It was just... I can't even tell you. See the Farimont Hotel at Banff, which is like a castle. It's like $1,200 a night to stay there or something, and afternoon tea is $250 or something. It's like luxury. But we got to walk around that area, took lots of pictures there too. So it was an amazing vacation. Just absolutely beautiful. And then we got home, and Ross flew to Florida on Thursday morning at the crack of dawn. We got home Wednesday afternoon. We flew in. We had to get up really early to get to the airport in Calgary on Wednesday. We got home mid-afternoon. We picked up Chevy just so we could see him overnight, and then I dropped him back off the next day. Wasn't very good planning on our part. And then I left for Wisconsin Sheep and Wool. So I had to drive 5 hours on Thursday over to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool. My dear friend Bonnie, who's been on the podcast, was supposed to go with me, and I had this terrible cold. And I said, Ross hasn't gotten sick. I'm feeling some better, but it's not gone. Like, I'm still coughing and blowing my nose. Do you want to spend 5 hours in a car with me and a hotel room at night? And I have to go because I'm teaching. And I was hoping I'd have a voice. So she decided not to go, which is really, really a bummer. I felt so bad. I called her on my way and I said, I'm feeling so bad. Do you want to sit in the back seat with a mask on? She was like, no, it's fine. I'll go next year. I listened to some really good audiobooks on the way over and back. And so on top of getting the cold, can I just tell you all of the terrible things that happened to Cotton Sheep and Wool? The first day I get there, I park in the back 40. I've never taught at this event before. I've been there, and I get there early. I have to teach at 9 a.m. I am there, for me, I am there very early. It's 8 o'clock. And I'm dragging my giant suitcase, my giant orange suitcase, and my rolling backpack, that they're both full. And I don't know where to check in for sure. It says building 1. And I go to the gate and they say, well, it should just be down here on the left. So I go down, I don't know, 2 or 3 blocks, and I don't see where I'm supposed to check in. And so I go to this activity center on the right. And as I'm going across this parking lot, I have bought 2 emotional support drinks for my day because I'm so afraid I'm going to lose my voice, right? So I have a big water bottle and I have 2 mugs of Diet Coke just to help me get through the day. And I have this little basket and they all fit in there tightly and it had a handle on it. And so I had that on the top of my suitcase and I was just dragging them along. You know where this is going, right? I get to this activity center and I try to go in through the door and my whole suitcase goes flying. The water, the pop, the ice, everywhere. It's just a disaster. I was just like, I can't start my day like this. I don't know where I'm supposed to check in. I've made a mess everywhere. Half of it was outside the door. The ladies were really nice. They came walking over. They went and got paper towels and helped me wipe off my suitcase and all my stuff. And then they're like, yeah, you're just right across the way. And I'm like, in the poultry building? They're like, yep, there's a sign. I said, there is no sign. So I go across the street with my stuff. Now everything's empty. I have nothing to drink for the rest of the day. And I go in there and I said, is this where I'm supposed to check in? She's like, yep. I said, there's not a sign. And she said, there's a big sign on the corner. I said, there is no sign. It was so windy that all their sandwich boards had blown over. So there were big signs, but they were laying flat on the ground and you couldn't see what they said. So no wonder I couldn't figure out where I was going. Anyway, I checked in, then I'm dragging my suitcases to building 2. And she says, it's behind the 2 gray barns on the end. So now I'm going to drag another, it felt like a mile. It wasn't, but it felt like a mile. But I'm all dressed up, my dress and my cute little sweater, and I'm dragging my suitcases across. And I get over there and I'm, I don't know, half a block away and it becomes gravel. It's not even paved. So I'm like, I don't think these are going to wheel through this gravel. They're just going to drag. What am I going to do? I get all the way to the building, and now I start to see that there are teachers on the back side of that building pulling up and unloading their stuff out of their cars. Teachers can pull into the entire fairground and park right next to their building. You just have to go in a different entrance. So I'm sweating and I'm frustrated. And I did get water. I did go and find some water. But yeah. Then I teach both my classes. They go really well. At lunch, I got a Diet Pepsi. Not as good as a Diet Coke. Stood in line for a half an hour to get lunch because, of course, it's lunchtime and they have food trucks. And I see these people with Asian chicken noodles and I'm like, that looks great. So I got an hour. They're making it one batch at a time in this food truck. And so we waited and waited and waited, but we've already paid. We've already stood in line. Anyway, they were delicious, but I had to trek back to my barn so I could eat quickly. So I got back at, 20 to 1. I'm chowing down my food they're these big, metal buildings, but they're mostly for animals. They have a lot of hay on the floor still in them, which is where we're teaching. And then they have curtains in between all of us. So no walls. So you can hear every other class going on. And I'm loud. I'm a loud teacher, right? I like to, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be really hard. But they both went just fine, both my classes. And then by the end of the day, I was beat. My nose, my cough. I'd been eating Halls for 4 days. Everything that I put in my mouth tasted like Halls methylyptus. I did not cough too much during my class, which is good. But then I was just like, okay, I'm going back to the hotel. I'm going straight to bed. I'm going to sleep till morning. Picked up some food, took a shower. And then the next morning I get up and I have to check out because Saturday morning I'm teaching one class and then I'm leaving to come back to Minneapolis and can't find my car keys. I'm like, what? My car won't open. I don't take my car keys out of my backpack. They're hooked on a thing and I don't need them to start the car. The car just unlocks and then it's a push button. And I'm like, okay. And I left one suitcase up in my room and I'm like, okay, they have to be in that other suitcase. I don't know why, or I left them in the room. So I go up, I strip the bed, no keys. I'm looking all over, no keys. And it dawns on me that before I left the day before, I took my wallet and my car keys and I put them in a dumpling bag to take this in to show Steve and Andy of Linneman Fiber Arts who I used the yarn on for this bag, the bag that I used the yarn on, and they're having a sample made. And so I had said I would stop by. So I had taken my wallet out and left the keys in this bag, which was then in the second suitcase. But I did not know that and did not remember. So I am panicking. It is 8 o'clock in the morning. I have to teach at 9. I can't find my car keys, right? Like I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like to get a key made, somebody's going to have to drive me over. Then it dawns on me. So I get them, but you have that moment of, right? Do you think it could get any worse? Yep, it does. I get over there. I set up. I'm supposed to have a TV monitor, big TV monitor, and I have a little projector. And there's no extension cord. And the outlet is like up high on the wall, on the side of the wall, not in the back of the room. So I start to move the screen and turn the room, even though all my people are going to have to like bunch up. I text the ladies who are in charge and say, hey, is there an extension cord? She goes, I'll see what I can do. I don't carry an extension cord. I carry a giant bag of cords for all of any iteration that I might need to hook up to something. But then there are 2 big windows in this room. So the slide projector is not really going to show that well. So then I take some folding chairs and try to set them up in the windows to block some of the light. And it's getting later and later and no one's showing up for my class. Now this is my tips and tricks class. It's my most popular one. I have 20 people. There's a waiting list and there's no one there. It's 8:59 and there's no one there. And I'm like, what has gone wrong? Am I in the wrong space? Am I in the wrong place? Did I get the wrong time? I looked at my contract. Nope, 9 to noon. I'm like, oh my gosh. Here comes this lady. She comes running in and she goes, I'm sitting in my car with my friends and I'm taking your tips and tricks class. And I look on the thing and in the program thing, it says that our class is at 9 o'clock. But the registration we got says it's at 1. And I'm like, so 20 people think that the class is at 1 o'clock, but the teacher thinks it's at 9. I was just like, oh, you gotta be kidding. So I text the ladies again, and this is like the 4th time I've texted them for different things. And she goes, just a sec. And then nothing. There's nothing. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't know if I can use this classroom. I am supposed to go home at noon. I am going to have to teach this afternoon. What am I going to do? So then I start trying to get the computer to work with the actual slide projector and it's not working. I'm like, well, no matter what, I got to figure out how to get this working. So here she comes finally and she says, we screwed up. I'm so sorry. We put an afternoon code on a morning class and the computer logs it all. And she said, we have 125 classes going on and yours is the only one that we've had a problem with. And she said, we will pay for you to stay another night. And I said, I don't want I've already checked out. I've packed up all my stuff again, all my samples, and I haul them in and out because I won't leave my samples in the car. So I have 2 giant suitcases, one for clothes and handouts, and the other one for all the samples. And I said, I don't want to, I'm going to go home, but I'll stay and teach the class because I said, I don't want you to have 20 angry people with you. And she goes, yeah, I'd rather have 1 angry teacher than 20 angry students. I'm like, well, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm kind of laughing. Like, of course, nothing has gone right. I'm sick. I want to go home and sleep in my own bed. I've been here all day, and now I have 4 hours to just wait until everybody shows up, which was actually, in one respect, kind of good because it took me almost 45 minutes to get the slide projector to work, change the room around, get tables taken down so we could lean tables up against the windows to cover the windows. So we took down 4 big giant folding tables, and I hauled them by myself across the aisle and leaned them up against the windows. And at 1 o'clock, I said to the people, well, thanks everybody for showing up. And they were all like, I thought I signed up for a morning class. And then when I got the registration sheet and 2 people called in and said, hey, what's going on? And they said, nope, it's at 1 o'clock because they're looking at their schedule. And then she said, your contract said 9, Corey. And I said, yeah, I know it did. So then I had to teach until 4 and then drive home, pack up all my stuff and then drive home. So I got home about 10:30 last night. My daughter called and talked to me for an hour, which was awesome. I was listening to a book, but when it got dark, it was just kind of a drag to drive the 5 hours home. And the class went fine. Everything, that was all great. So there you go. A ton of Corey's stories and all the terrible things. No one showed up for my class. Anyway, and the projector wasn't great. Now I'm sending everybody the PowerPoint presentation and asking them not to share it with anybody because some of them couldn't even see it from the back of the room. They would stand up and come up and lean, and it was better than it was originally. But did I have a weekend, you guys? So as my close personal friends, I just wanted to share that with all of you because I haven't been able to tell anybody. Okay, all that to say, I have my new CORI'S Drop Stop Stitch Markers in stores near you, online at Twice Sheared Sheep. I sold 10 packages this weekend. I got 100 packages from the company to sell, just because they're fun to have. And in all my classes, several people stepped up and bought them from me. So that was really nice. This is a woman-owned company, and each of the packages are made by women at home who need to stay home to work. So single moms who can't work outside the home, and they do all the packaging and make all of their products. And so they are a little bit more expensive than other, maybe Amazon stitch markers, but you are supporting a small women-owned business in the knitting industry, and I just think that's so special. So yeah, you can go to twiceshearedsheep.com and get your CORI'S Drop Stop Stitch Markers. There are instructions on the back for how to lock the tail in. You just use your stitch marker as normal, and the tail gets stuck in your knitting so that if it falls off, you don't lose it. You know where it is. When you come back around, you will see it hanging there, either on the front or the back of your knitting, and you can just put it back up onto the needle. You won't miss doing a yarn over or a decrease or an increase or the beginning of your row. I have been using these for years, just making my own, and you could certainly do that, but nobody wants to, so you can just go get your little, and these fit up to a size 10.5, US 10.5 needle, so they will work for just about anybody, and I just love them. So that was really fun. I have all these packages of, and I sold a number of books, so that was kind of fun. Yeah, absolutely. I have been working on dumpling bags and a new vest that's coming out with Farmer's Daughter fibers for Sacred Sheep. That has gone out to testers. I have, what did I count? 16 testers, something like that, 16 or 17 testers, but I still need 2 more. I need the 60 and 63 inch bust sizes. So this is a vest, is all over color work, is super simple. There are no long floats. There are no carries. You do not have to be a great color work knitter. You just have to be motivated to want to knit a color work vest. So if you have someone in your life that would fit a 60 to 63 inch bust, with 1 to 2 inches of positive ease or more, depending on how you like to wear your items. I have a couple of testers who are doing it at a slightly larger gauge than what I got, which is fine with me. But yeah, I need a couple more testers for those 2 big sizes. I could still use 1 tester at the 33.75 bust. I do have 1, but I like to have 2 for every size, just in case someone can't finish anymore. I just know that something is going to come up with at least 1 or 2 of my testers where they might not be able to get it done, and then I don't have yardage amounts and I don't have that size tested. And you do not have to be a professional perfect knitter. As a matter of fact, I prefer that you don't be, so that you ask lots of questions and you say, I don't understand this, or this isn't clear, or what am I supposed to do here? So that I can make the pattern the best I can. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in testing that. Twice Sheared Sheep is going to have a knit along, and their kits are going to go on sale September, 25th? Yes. And so they're getting their very own special dumpling bag. It's so cute, you guys. I'm so excited about it. But yes, they are going to do kits. So you'll get a skein of yarn, you'll get a mini skein, you'll get the CORI'S drop stop stitch markers in that kit, and then they're going to have a knit along to make the dumpling bag, where you make the I-cord using the mini skein, and you get an I-cord maker if you want one. And so you can get, this will be an optional add-in on the kit. So you can mark your calendars, because those will go live on September 25th. And I do think they'll have a limited quantity. They'll have a lot, but yeah, they're going to do a Zoom login for everybody to do the kickoff, and it should be really fun. I plan to get on that, and this bag will not be part of the Dumpling Bag Devotees collection, because it's just for them. Not that you can't buy it separately. You could certainly buy it separately on Ravelry, because it will be up. But yeah, we're going to make it exclusive for them, that's fine. It's so cute, though. You're all going to want it, I think. Yeah, so I'm super excited about both those things are happening. I am working on October's dumpling bag, which is super fun because it's self-striping yarn. So that'll be really, really good. I have November and December's getting ready there. So yeah, I've been doing some behind the scenes knitting, working on some projects. I knit on my vest when I was in Canada. It's almost done. So yeah, I had to rip back. A lot. I was getting some pooling with my colorways. I wasn't alternating skeins, and I had switched hands, and I definitely have yarn dominance in my colorways. I purl looser than I knit, and so I always hold my light color in my left hand. And I got up, I don't know, 4 inches, and I looked back, and I had this line and these few rows that were darker, and I thought, you were riding in the car and you put that light colored yarn in your right hand, and it just looked bad. And I thought, this is going to be the sample. You know, you don't get to mess it up. You don't get to mess up your own knitting. So I ripped back a whole bunch of color work, which is really a bummer, but I'm back up to where I was before. And I just have to pick up my neck bands and one of my armholes, and then I should be set. As long as I don't make another mistake. I think part of it was getting a cold, and I was trying to knit in the car everywhere we drove. So we didn't see any other wildlife when we were driving everywhere, but when I got home, I noticed that they are having wildfires on part of, in British Columbia. If you follow Chantel of Knititude, she lives in Calgary, and she happened to be in Vancouver. Otherwise, I would have tried to meet up with her. And she showed some pictures that they had come through there coming back, and then they closed the highway because the fire got so close to the highway, and it was huge. And I was like, we didn't have any fire or bad. We in Minnesota often have, bad air warnings because of fires in Canada. But yeah, so that was kind of sad. You never know. I did get a Wisconsin sheep and wool t-shirt. I should show you all because it's so cute. Here, I'll stand up a little bit. Isn't it cute? I saw it in one of the ladies had it on in my class, and I said, oh, that's darling. She goes, if you want one, they always sell out. And I said, oh, that's really cute. And so they had sweatshirts and V-necks and short sleeves and long sleeves. And I do think you can get them on their website. Now, I don't know if you want one if you didn't go, but if you're from Wisconsin, you might want one even if you didn't go. Oh, but I thought it was so cute. So I got a long sleeve t-shirt and I got the black sweatshirt. Crew neck. It was so soft. I was like, I have a rule when I teach I can't spend, but if it's not yarn, it doesn't count, right? Okay, who did I meet? I met Sarah and Sam and Queen Bee Carissa from Bumblebee Fibers. That was so much fun. She has a podcast, if you haven't watched Bumblebee Acres Fiber Farm. And I chatted with them for a while. We took a picture together. That picture will be in here. That was really fun. I said to Sam, I said, I think we'd be good friends. We watched each other's podcast, but I had not met her. And I didn't recognize her. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you the one that has it on, you're on the farm? She's like, yes. And she goes, I follow you too. It was really funny. Then I met the nicest gal at Wool, Warp, and Wheel Fiber Art Studio in Richmond, Illinois. They had the neatest looking booth. It was so cool. I spent way too much time talking to this gal. And then she brought over the owner, Rob, and he and his wife own this yarn store, and it got flooded. They had a pipe burst. They didn't lose any inventory, but they had to redo the whole store, the floors and the ceilings. And so she said it got this kind of huge upgrade. And she said every Sunday afternoon they have studio time all afternoon, and you can have food. They make soup and hot dish and buns, and you can go and do weaving, spinning, knitting, crochet, and like a potluck Sundays. And I'm like, I want that. I want that in my town. So that was really fun. She was really nice. She worked for them, and yeah. So I want to say hi to her too. Then I saw Laura Linneman of the KnitGirlls, and she goes to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool every year. She's a huge spinner, but I didn't know that. But she gave me one of these cards, and this is Purl and Weft magazines, and it is going to be a new knitting magazine, print knitting magazine, and they are doing a Kickstarter. So it says, dive deep into a single topic to give you a thorough understanding. Provide in-depth material for intermediate to advanced knitters, inspire new knitters, experiment with and question things we think we know. Yeah, and so I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to hold it up here, and maybe you can do the QR code. Okay, but it's purlmagazine.com if you're interested in that. So she gave me a card. As she was flying by, I was getting ready to teach, and she was like, I have something for you. And she came back, and I never even really talked to her, but I'm like, how are you? She's like, I said, did you get off school to teach? Yeah. She said, yeah, I did. I come every year. That's all I got. But anyway, so I had just a wonderful time teaching, even though I kind of felt rotten. It was really windy and really cold. I saw Susie of Fiber McGyver, and she stood outside all 3 days, and it was so windy on Friday. I don't know how they did it. It was just blowing like a gale. Saturday, I went over when my class wasn't going on because I had 4 hours. I went over. I had my coat on and my sweater, and I stood out, maybe talked to them for 20 to 30 minutes. And I was just freezing. I'm like, I got to get my car and drive to town and just warm up, go get some warm food somewhere. I don't know how they did. I mean, they had stocking hats on. People were wearing, it was 53 degrees. I mean, it's unruly cold compared to what we usually have the first weekend in September. I mean, not that it can't get cold overnight, but yeah, it was chilly, very chilly. I don't know if the barns were cold. I only kind of walked through briefly most of them. I did stop and talk to Sam of Lavendar Lune, picked out some yarn colors because I'm going to do a new design for her for sweater camp. Yeah, I have a good idea for a sweater. So she said, stop by and we'll decide what kind of yarn you want. So we picked yarn from her, and so she's going to get it dyed up for me. And so I did that. And I met Heather of Beautiful Sister Bags in Sam's booth. And she goes, have you guys ever met? And I'm like, I don't think so. And she wasn't in her booth, so I didn't recognize her, you know, like when you see someone out of context. She's like, I don't think so. And so I met her. But yeah, it was a lovely vacation and a lovely weekend. I got lots to do now that I'm home. I've added a bunch of knitting classes. So I'm going to be teaching on Friday afternoons virtually for Longmont Yarn Shop. So 2 in October and 1 in December. I'm going to be teaching for Muse 2320 down in Hastings, Minnesota in October and December, I think. I'm doing the Nome Schoolhouse Retreat again. So if you want to come to Nome, North Dakota in the second week in November, I'm teaching 3 classes, and you can just come and sit and knit for 3 days if that's what you want to do, and they'll feed you good food, and we'll just sit around the fireplace and knit. I mean, it won't be cold. We didn't even have the fireplace going last year, I don't think. I mean, it was cool. It's the beginning of November in North Dakota, but it wasn't a blizzard or anything like that. Some of you that live in the South. Actually, a lady flew up from Florida last year. They'll pick you up in Fargo, North Dakota. And so it's your room, all your meals. They do have they have a bar area so you can get wine and alcohol. They cook all the meals right there on site. And then you get three knitting classes with me. And so, yeah, if you're interested, grab a friend and come. There are 14 boutique hotel rooms in this. That's what they call them. They're small. They're very nice. They're like all brand new. They added them to the back of the old schoolhouse. And you get a tour of the yarn mill that's in the basement and the felting. They have a felting company. And then there's a little yarn store where they sell all kinds of stuff right in the building. But there's nothing else in Nome. It's just a tiny little town that they're trying to bring back to life. So yeah, they asked me if I wanted to come back, and I had a weekend open, which was shocking. And I said, yeah, I will.
I've got to go pick up a part I thought I would take.
Yeah, you can go with Dad. No problem, hon. Chev's going to ride along with his dad. Go with Dad. Oh, big stretch. Just a couple more things here. I have set the next knit night, which is Thursday, September 25th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We just get together and knit. Some of you have never joined, so join us one night. Come on Zoom. I'll have the link in the Patreon group. You just click it and come and sit and knit. And then I picked the book for the October book club so that those of you that want to get started on that early can. This is the best book. It does happen to be one of the audiobooks that I'm going to talk about this week. I read it a couple of weeks ago. It's so good. It's so good. It's going to maybe sound like a book you're not interested in. And I told Kylie last night, I said, you have to read it. The writing is excellent, but the thoughtfulness of the author on this subject matter is exceptional. It's so good. Okay, so we're going to meet October 20th, Monday night, 6 p.m. The book is called This Is How It Always Is by Laurie Frankel. So this is the premise. This is how a family keeps a secret and how that secret ends up keeping them. This is how a family lives happily ever after until happily ever after becomes complicated. This is how children change and then change the world. This is Claude. He's 5 years old, the youngest of 5 brothers, and loves peanut butter sandwiches. He also loves wearing a dress and dreams of being a princess. When he grows up, Claude says he wants to be a girl. It's how this family of 5 boys navigates the fact that they have a little boy who thinks he wants to be a girl. And I have read a couple books where kids transition, and that is not what, I don't want to give too much away, but the dynamics of this family and the brothers and the parents and the people around them, the grandmother, you're going to love the grandmother. It is so heartwarming. It's hilariously funny. It's a little sad. It is enlightening. I just can't even tell you enough. You all want to read this book. 5 stars for me. I maybe I was just in the right frame of mind. You know how I am sometimes. Something that's really good, I'm like, and then something that you might be like, I loved. So, but go over and read, go on Goodreads, read a review if you think you're unsure, but pick this one up, and the audio was excellent. Okay, then I also on audio listened to Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. That was my book on the way over. I love her. Her books take place in Minnesota. She was on the Food Network and won the Bake Off and has Nadia's Cupcakes here in Minnesota. And she writes romance novels, but all behind the closed doors romance novels. So these are not spicy books at all. And this one, you know how in a lot of romance novels, 2 people are attracted to each other and then they hate each other and something bad happens and then they get back together? That does not happen. Does not happen. And I was like, I kept waiting for them to have like a big blow up or something bad to happen. This is just really good. Really, really good. He's a veterinarian. And I don't want to give too much away. 5 stars for sure. Love her. I follow her on Instagram. If you don't, you should. She's very much into dogs. And at the beginning of the novel, she gives several spoilers for, you might not want to listen to this if. She just kind of lets you know. I went and looked up what the trigger warnings were at the beginning, just so that you would know and you don't have to go look. So, dementia, cheating partner, mention of childhood abuse, physical and mental, mention of animal abuse, cruelty and neglect, character death. So she went right up front to tell you what, none of those things are hugely, dramatic. And the animal abuse, nobody dies and nobody is abused. She does a good job with it. Really good. But when you start, I was like, no, and then she surprises you. So, but if any of those things are triggers for you, you might want to look. I loved it. I didn't stop listening when I got over there that night. I stayed in my room on my bed and kept listening to the book instead of turning on TV, taking a shower, and going to bed because I liked it so much. And then the last one I just finished on the way home yesterday, and that was called Tilt by Emma Patty. This is a debut novel by this author, and it's set over the period of 1 day. And when I read the description, I was like, whoa, wow, this is going to be interesting. This is a woman who is 37 weeks pregnant in Portland, Oregon, and a massive earthquake hits, and she's in IKEA, and it's about what happens to her. And she talks to the baby and to her husband who's not with her, and meets people along the way trying to escape and get out. And I would call it kind of apocalyptic, because people are hurt and getting help and trying to help one another and then find one another. And it just, the whole time I was driving home, it was just making me think about like what happens during these natural disasters, when they have like a tsunami or an earthquake or a fire or like this floods in Texas or whatever. Although this one is kind of written as a like, it's not a positive, but it's like kind of like motivational, like the struggle and I really liked it. It just really made me think. I love books that make me think in a different way. And I don't know that it would be everyone's cup of tea, as far as like, I didn't think it would be my cup of tea, honestly. It was so good. It was really compelling. And she goes back and tells her life story of how she met her husband, and then how they have no money, and he's a struggling actor trying to make it, and they decide to have this baby, And she doesn't know now why, because they can't really afford it. And now this terrible thing has happened. And yeah, and the ending was very surprising to me, like very surprising. So a 5 out of 5, like just for something really different. It was just intriguing and I don't know, captivating. And I didn't want it to stop. While I was driving, I'm like, this is the best book to listen to when I'm driving 5 hours home on a dark Wisconsin road, So yeah, there you go. 3 books, 5 out of 5. I think that's all I have for you guys. So this week I am giving away 2 skeins of gorgeous, expensive yarn. I just went in my bin and I pulled them out. And this is Bar à Tricot Yarn Bar. And these are beautiful. They're 70% silk, 20% mohair, 10% nylon, 440 yards on each one of them. It is just beautiful in the spruce colorway. It's blue-green. It looks very, very blue. It's got a little tone of green in it. I would call it absolutely spruce under my lights, but I have my bright lights on in here. And then I just took 2 other greeny blue things to go with it. Another one of my little notebooks and some fiber McGyver stitch stoppers. And this is all going out to Tiffany Payne. So congratulations, Tiffany, Patreon member. I just put those 2 things together. Tiffany is a friend. I have traveled with her to go up to the Up North Fiber Retreat. And she is local. She lives in Minneapolis. And so I will put that in the mail to you, Tiffany, because I know where you live. And I do have your address. But yeah, your name came up and you're getting some beautifully expensive yarn that someone donated to the podcast, which is lovely. Okay. Until next time, I'll see you guys all. Come in for a big hug. Say hello. Give me a little comment. Tell me what you're knitting and what you're reading. I had someone email me this week and said she just finished a great book. And I went over and put it on my Libby holds. And yeah, so I'm excited to get it. I always want to hear about books and knitting. And occasionally an emotional support drink. All right. Bye. See you all next time.
Climbing a mountain, finally, after all these years of orthopedic surgeries. And my husband says, "Do you have your knitting?" And I said, "Of course I have my knitting." So we have to hike way back up there because that's where the viewing tower is. But I said, just let me sit and knit for a minute in this beautiful gloriousness.
never says you still ain't got. You work in the market as a chicken. Take my love and take it down. If you climb a mountain and you turn around, if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, then I'll landslide bring it down. If you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills,
Oh no!
That's really neat.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
When I first bought that stuff, I couldn't get it in. I had to buy it on. Yeah. So I. Okay, so we have to ask, how long did your? How long?
Show you how to use CORI'S Drop Stop stitch marker from Twice Sheared Sheep. This is what the actual stitch marker looks like, and it has a tail. Why would you want to use this? Well, I've been using them for years to hold my place. So you use it like a regular stitch marker, and then you just lock the tail in every so often so that if the stitch marker falls off to the front or even to the back, when you come around on your next round or row, you're likely to see it and not miss doing an increase or decrease or miss the beginning of the round. So in order to just lock that tail in, you would just put your stitch marker on, and then you bring your yarn to the front, slip the stitch marker over, and bring the yarn to the back. Now that tail is locked in. You can even count rows that way, so you can lock in your tail every 5 or 10 rows, and then that way you don't have to recount all of those rows. But it has saved me purchasing a number of stitch markers over the years. I always use it. They're a wonderful technique, a great company, women-owned, women-made, at-home moms who are just making all the product and packaging it. So you can go over to twiceshearedsheep.com and pick up your CORI'S Drop Stop stitch markers today.